Hello! Today's tutorial is how to change normal pants into pants like these. You can either use this tutorial to make bloomers or pants for kodona and ouji. If I am using ready pants in this video, if you're interested in how to make the base pants, I do have a tutorial for that. Although those are very plain, these are more decorated with lace and stuff, so if you want you can kind of mesh these two tutorials together. And as for materials, you can pick basically anything you want. If you're making these to be pants, then I suggest a bit thicker fabric than the one I have. I just fell in love with the color and the material. It's kind of like thin corduroy. In Finnish it's literally line velvet. I'm gonna look it up and put the word here. So you can basically go from cotton to brocaded things, pretty much anything you want. Velvet is lovely as well. And if you're making bloomers, then you can choose depending on where you live. They can be again basic cotton, or if you live in a very hot climate but want these for kind of to cover yourself up so that if you wear shorter skirts you won't show anything, then chiffon types material could be good for you. Or if you live in colder climates like Finland, then maybe go for thicker fabrics, almost kind of sweatpant fabric could be good, as so they give a lot of warmth. So it really is up to you, and I'm gonna head and show you how I made these. And again, if they are for bloomers, then you don't necessarily have to add lace or anything, but I did. And I'm actually gonna take the sock off so you can see the length better. I chose to put elastic so that it is nice and comfortable, and almost all of mine come over to the knee, so I wanted something that is a bit shorter. But then when I added the lace, it still covers the knee, so I really love these pants and I'm gonna have fun with them. And I'm done decorating them for now. But the good thing is about projects is that if you come up with a cool idea or find really awesome items like lace or fabric that you can decorate them with, you can always add those later. So yeah, these are ready for now. And I didn't have a pair of legit bloomers, I only had like really warm ones. So for example, if I'm in a fashion show or if I'm wearing a shorter skirt, then I can wear these. And because they have the elastic, I can actually pull these more up so that if I don't want the lace to show, that's a cool thing. But I made these mainly for ouji because I didn't have any white pants, and I think that light colored ouji can look really regal and princely. And here is a quick overview what I did before we start the tutorial. I replaced the waist. I made these pearl pockets, which I think are cute, and I cut off the legs, put elastic and added lace, and this is the final look. What you want to do is put your pants on and then look in the mirror and figure out how long you want your pants to be. They can be quite short or even over the knee. Mine are usually over the knee, but I want to make these a bit shorter, especially because I have this lovely lace, which I, by the way, nicked from a skirt, which is why it's a tube right now. I'm gonna fix that later. So you want to look in the mirror and you want to pin the length you want with a pin. And then the next thing you want to do is, before you cut anything, you want to sit down. Because when you sit, the pants will fit a bit differently. And I know that when I sit, I usually like to kind of tuck the pants up a bit to make them more comfortable to sit in. And so The length of your pant is now a tiny bit shorter than it was a moment ago. So you want to again pin it if you want it to be a different length, and then work a compromise between them, and that is what I have done. And also, if you have if you don't use lace, or if you only use a small dainty lace, then it doesn't really matter. But because my lace is quite massive, I also want to take it in consideration already, because it's going to give me extra length. It's going to be see-through, but still it's going to give me extra length. So I also pinned the lace to my pants so that I'm gonna wear them, because I'm gonna put elastic. I'm gonna wear them so that they're a bit baggy, so they come a bit higher, and I want the lace to just cover my knee. That's kind of the look I'm going for. So I also pinned the lace so that now I have a better understanding of how long the pants will be with the lace. So the next thing you want is to put it on a table and cut it. And now that I'm going to cut the pants, I laid them down flat on a table, and I made sure that the top is even. Because if the top is uneven, then the pants could be different length in theory. So what you want to do is take your mark. Here is my lace. I'm going to remove the lace because we don't need that right now. And here we have the mark of where I want the end of the pant to be. So I want to make the elastic tunnel above my mark, and from my mark the lace will begin. So I'm just straightening out the other sleeve a tiny bit. So what I want to do next is take a long ruler and place it across both legs. And I want to place it a tiny bit under the mark, so that when I do the mark itself will be on the inside of the pants, so that I don't have to worry about it washing off. Because my pants are creamy white, so I can't use white, so I have blue. And I don't know how well this is going to wash off. We'll see in a bit. So what I'm going to do is put it a tiny bit over my mark, and then mark the pants. And I have my blue line. I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but there is a blue line now. And what I want to do next is take pins and pin the pant sleeves together, so that when I cut it, they are going to be the same length, so that the pant doesn't move while I cut it. This goes through just one layer, so I'm gonna reposition it. Once you've made your mark, you want to take the elastic, because I'm going to form my elastic tunnel by folding the fabric inwards and then creating the tunnel. So I have my blue mark as to where the tunnel will begin, and I'm going to take my elastic and check how wide the tunnel needs to be. And if you want, you can do another mark, but I'm not gonna, because I'm a bit lazy and I know the width of the elastic. And you want to leave a bit of seam allowance, so I'm going to go ahead and cut. And when you have your extra of the pants, if it's some kind of special fabric, you want to save it so that you can perhaps make matching accessories if you're making this to be ouji pants. If you're just making bloomers from plain fabric, then it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to go ahead and save this in case I want to make a matching hat, for example, that needs a bit more material, so I'm going to save my pant legs. Now that I've cut my pants, I'm not going to hem the edge just yet because we're going to do that later. And this is a step that you can skip, but because my lace is so wide, I'm going to want to sew the edge together so that it's a tube when I attach it to the pant. But if you have very small lace, you can just sew it around and then hand sew the tiny seam. But because mine is wide, I want to make a tube out of it before I start attaching it to the pant. So I just measured how long it needs to be from my mark, not at the bottom, but at my mark. And I cut out a piece and I'm going to sew them together and make tubes out of them, and I'm going to do that to the both pant legs. I'm gonna sew with a very short straight stitch, and I'm going where the lace is thickest so that the stitch has the most to grab onto. I don't know how well you can see that, but here we have the stitch, and I'm going to make another one right next to it just to be sure, because lace is not very sturdy. And I'm now going to cut right next to the seam that I just made to cut off the excess lace. And I'm going to make a zigzag to the very edge to really secure the lace. This lace is very firmly knitted, so it's not very prone to fraying, but if your lace is, then you may have to use some kind of fray check to really make sure that it doesn't fray, but mine is quite non-fraying. I'm not really afraid for it, but just in case, I'm going to make a zigzag. Side note, sewing machines are fickle bastards. Mine started fucking things up. This is luckily the spare piece, so that was fun, half an hour. But you know what, we get over it and then things continue. So, the next thing you want to do is pin your lace to your pant. And what I did here is, first of all, you want to pin it so that when you fold it down, it will be facing the pretty side up. So I lined my lace with the blue marks that I did earlier. And what I want to do, because this will be the bottom edge of the elastic tunnel, so I'm going to pin the lace to the marks and then sew around just above the blue line that I drew earlier, so that you can't see the blue, and that's why I drew it like 2 millimeters lower than it should be, so I'm gonna sew about 2 millimeters above it. So for now you want to pin your lace to your pant and then let's sew it on. I also want to point out that I put the seam of my lace so that it matches the inseam of the pant, so that the seam will be hidden between my legs. So if you have seam make sure to put it on either the inside seam or the outside seam and not to the front of the pants, because that's something that you can easily forget when you're pinning the lace down, but it will be quite visible when the pants are done. And I'm gonna go ahead and sew again right above my mark with a simple straight stitch, and remembering to back up at the ends. And once you reach your starting point, you want to sew on top of it and then back up again to really make sure that the stitches stay. Then you want to just flip it upside down so that you can see how the lace hangs. And I am really pleased with the seam, but if you have some sort of folds or weird things going on, then this is the moment to fix it. But because I like how it looks, I'm going to flip it backwards again. And next I'm going to sew, because this will now be the inside of the elastic tunnel, so I want to just sew along the edge to also hem the pant that we haven't hemmed yet, and also to really make sure that the lace is well attached to the fabric, so that when we start putting the elastic through, it will have a nice smooth transition. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a zigzag and start going around the edge. You want to repeat that to both pant legs and then you're done. And here you can kind of see the blue mark that I did earlier. And what you want to do next is flip your pants inside out. And what we are going to do is form the elastic tunnel. So here is your pant leg, this is the inside side of your pants, and we are going to fold the little thing that we have extra and sew right along the seam all the way around, except leave a small opening so that we can put the elastic through, and then we're going to close it later. And I recommend that you leave the opening at the inside seam of the pants so that it's in the least visible area, even though you won't be able to see it well. If you have a very printed fabric, then it's a bit more visible, so I recommend putting it in a hidden spot. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew around to make the elastic tunnel. So again, you want to leave a small opening for us to put the elastic through, and then you want to repeat this to the other pant leg as well. And now let's put the elastic through. You want to put the other end and secure it, I attached it to the seam allowance so that you don't lose your other end. And you also want to put a safety pin to the side that you are putting through, and then just start fitting it through. And when you've come out, you can take your safety pin off and release the other end. And then you want to feel around to make sure that neither, or that the whole elastic did not turn around, because if it twists, then it's gonna both look and feel uncomfortable. And when you've made sure that it hasn't turned around itself, then you want to sew the ends together. I actually forgot to press record and this is the second leg I'm doing. But once you have your elastic through, you want to sew it in place, and I use a very wide zigzag and first go one place, then to the middle, and then again to the other edge, so that you have a really nice and strong bond. And after you've done that, and before you close the elastic tunnel, you want to try the pants on so that you really know that the elastic is a good size. For example, if it's a bit too loose, you can take a bit out, or if it's a bit too snug, you can cut the elastic and put a small bit to it. And once you're happy with the elastic that you have, we are going to close the tunnel. So you want to take a straight stitch and start by overlapping your old stitch a bit. Again, overlap just a bit, and you're done. This looks a bit weird, bear with me. These pants are originally meant to be worn at your waist so that they're a bit baggy, but because I want them to not be so baggy, I have to lift them up really high. And also these are a tiny bit see-through, which is why I'm wearing same color tights. So what I want to do is not pull these to my ears. So a good thing is to put them where you want them to sit, and then look into the mirror and start folding the waistband until it's where you want it to be. I think this could be good. And the next thing you want to do is to mark it with pins, because I'm either going to reuse the elastic that is here, or I'm going to use elastics that I have which is the same length. So I'm going to put pins around here, and that will give me a guidance as to where I want the elastic tunnel to end. So this is an easy way to kind of eyeball where you want to move the waistband. And I also like these pants because they have extra room here, and that makes it easier to tuck in the blouse that I'm wearing if I want to, especially in ouji, so that it has a lot of room for the blouse, because if the pants are quite tight and the blouse is a bit looser or it has a longer hem, it can be uncomfortable to jam it in the pants. So this is a good thing that it has extra room here as well, even though it looks a bit silly right now. So next what I'm going to do is start taking the waistband apart. If I wanted to, I could just cut it off, but because I'm hoping to save the elastic because it's the exact right length and I like how nice and loose it is because mine is more rigid. So I'm going to hope to save this, and so I'm going to just go in with a seam ripper and take all of this apart and then start to reconstruct the elastic tunnel a bit lower. I took the elastic out and now I'm going to drop the waist, and I don't know if you can see, but I still have the seam, so this is where the elastic used to be. This is the back of the tunnel. So when I tried it on, I flipped the waistband once and twice, and this is where the new home for the waistband will be. And I wrote E, which means etu, which means front, and back to the other side because I lost the tag, and I want to be able to know which is front and which is back, because in the original pants the front and back sides were identical because these were supposed to be droopy pooped your pants kind of pants, and I'm fixing the waist, so I'm going to drop it less on the back side because I have a butt, so I also took that in consideration. So next thing I'm going to do is just make a tunnel for the elastic, and we all know how to do that because I just showed you the principle on the pant sleeves. So my tutorials are way too long. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and do that and then come back to you. I did the waistband and then I wanted to play around with decorating the pants because I want them to look more than just bloomers. If you're making bloomers, then this is fine, but I wanted to add something a bit extra. So I have my extra fabric and I played with pocket shapes, but I didn't really think of anything I liked. So I actually went and made pocket shapes out of pearls. So I just basically sewed a string right to the waist seam under the elastic, and I put enough beads so that it looked nice, and then I put it through the seam allowance so that I have my knots on the inside, and the seam allowance is a good place to hide any kind of additional knots. And I'm actually quite happy with how this looks, and I'm gonna also show a failed experiment. I thought about putting pearls, before I came up with the pockets, I thought about putting pearls to the cuffs of the pants, and that just ended up looking stupid, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut these out. But I do like the pockets, and you can either add real pockets or any kind of other decoration that you think will suit your pants. I did this weird thing and I kinda like it. That was it for this week's tutorial. Again, if you have any kind of questions about the project, about materials, anything that you need help with, feel free to leave them down below and I will try and answer the best I can through the internet. And if you have future requests, feel free to leave them down below as well. And I will see you again next Wednesday. Bye!